During his lifetime, the late Alan Bloom became one of the world's top authorities on growing perennials. He certainly did a great deal to popularize the whole idea of growing perennials in our gardens, and he was a pioneer in the concept of growing them in island beds. I know as a young man I couldn't wait to get hold of his latest catalogue, and when I went to visit the Chelsea Flower Show, I would make a beeline for the Bressingham Gardens exhibit to see the latest introduction that he was coming forward with. During his lifetime, he introduced over 170 different varieties of perennials, and this one, which is called Leucanthemum Snowcap, is one that he introduced during the 1980s. Now, in subsequent years, many fine varieties of Shasta Daisies have been introduced, but this tried and true variety, I can tell you, is one that still very much deserves a space in your garden. For here's a compact grower that only gets about a foot or 15 inches or so high, produces lots of these gorgeous big daisy-like flowers that sit up nice and prominently on strong stems above this tight canopy of dark green foliage. And now that I'm honing in on it, can you see all the buds that are coming there? Because these plants are just now beginning to flower. The first flowers are just opening in early summer, and that gives some idea of how valuable this plant is for us to grow in our gardens, because it produces so many flowers that in time this whole plant will be covered with a mass of white daisies and you'll hardly be able to see any leaves. Daisies that, if you trim them back after they finish flowering, will encourage new growth to come from inside the crown, and that will keep it flowering on through the summertime into the fall. Grow it in a sunny location, in a well-drained soil, but to one that's been added plenty of organic matter. Leucanthemums are fairly moderate feeders, so they like to have well-drained soil, that's important, but they also love to have plenty of humus in the soil. So work in some planting compost when you plant it, water it well, and then just keep an eye on it, deadhead them and so on, and you'll have a terrific display. What makes this a really valuable plant is that because it's so short and stocky and sturdy, it stands up very well to blustery weather. So if you're looking for something to put in at the fronts of your beds and borders, something perhaps that you could pop into a container and have by the front door on a patio deck, wherever you're looking for something that will give you seasonal color, perhaps even something you'd put into a window box or a planter by the side of a swimming pool, wherever, you'll be able to grow this and have lots of these gorgeous daisies. Individually, the plants are great, but if you're able to plant these en masse along the front of a border, say by the side of a path or a driveway, they're wonderful in raised beds and rockeries and places like that too, because they appreciate the drainage. You'll be able to grow this gorgeous variety that still, even though it was produced now probably over 40 years ago, is still a really top perennial and a wonderful living legacy of a man who was a superb plantsman and popularized the whole idea of us growing perennials in our gardens. This is Leucanthemum Snowcap, a really superb perennial.